Can graphic design exist in an artistic space, or are we hitting the wall when it comes to late-stage capitalism, directives, briefs, and AI overuse in the design field? Can designers be considered artists in any capacity, especially when design is seen as a prompt-based outcome? I want to talk about where design ends and art begins, or vice versa, in this video, because I really like to look into the history of stuff and research why we're doing what we're doing now. Particularly because in my research, I've seen quite a few contemporary artists using design in the context of their fine art. They really carved out their own lane and path into what constitutes art and what constitutes design. And I feel that I kind of live at that intersection as well. And it honestly blows my mind that there are so many people who have such a limited view of what design is and what it can be. So let's talk about that today. How to be an artist or a designer or both in your own way. Is design meant to be fast? This is something that I've actually been thinking about for a while now. I personally post on YouTube, and sometimes I've been posting designs, me working in design programs in the past. And when I do that, I will get comments that are like, there's actually a faster way to do that, or use this keyboard shortcut, or no, you did this wrong, right? And it's funny because it's like, sometimes I'm just taking my time. Sometimes, yes, I don't know every keyboard shortcut out there, so that's fine. But when I'm in a program taking my time choosing a typeface, I will inevitably get a comment that's like, yeah, choosing a typeface all day, that's all you did. And it's like, what do we think design really is? It really makes me wonder what people think design is or what it should be. I do think, yes, design has always felt very quick and snappy. At least that's the general consensus on how we treat it. Like, we've all heard the funny bad boss or bad client saying like, can you make the logo pop? Can you whip this up for me? Make it snappy, like that type of stuff. And it does feel that speed and efficiency are the things that are rewarded in the design field. And this is where I see design and art as completely separated. I understand it. I see design as kind of cold and impersonal, especially in an office environment, which is typically now where graphic designers are existing and producing work. It's hard to see the internal benefits of design in this way because it's more about outward problem solving and serving purpose first. And yes, that is how a lot of design is defined, like completely, but I'm not really interested in definitions in this video. And the thing about design in a corporate environment is that it's not really exercising your creativity in the same way that fine art would be. In this context as well, there is the added weight of artificial intelligence. You thought we weren't going to talk about it. We're always going to talk about it. The push to use AI in corporate spaces is getting a little out of hand. If it's not being used as a company-wide productivity tool, it is actually even becoming a full replacement for designers, which would be such a bad decision on a company's part. But AI yields quick results, so why shouldn't we be quicker and more efficient? Like, why would we even slow down, right? But are we trying to keep up with what AI can do? Or did we already set the precedent that faster was better? I think that we should leave room for human development within graphic design. And I think it's dangerous to expect anybody in any corporate setting or any position to have AI-like results, because we just can't work that quickly. And don't even get me started on how AI is just pulling from references and stealing from other art. Okay, so if design is considered fast, fine art must be considered slow, right? Okay, so I'm generalizing here, but I do think there is some truth to what I'm thinking. We've seen this reaction in the current responses to contemporary art, right? Like Gen Z's reaction. I saw a TikTok that was like, Gen Z hates modern art. And that made me laugh so much because it's so true in a way. I mean, it's the thing of where people are going into museums, contemporary, modern, this type of museums, and they're looking at the works in there and they're going, I could do that. Like, yeah, the people who don't know art can go into a museum and look at a Rothko and say, I could paint that, right? I totally understand this reaction when it comes to works like Rothko or Jackson Pollock, whose work was intentionally done very quickly and, of course, is abstract. And when you compare their work to Renaissance paintings, yeah, there is a big difference there. But of course, there's always nuance here. More modern works can still take a very long time to complete. Older works are not necessarily just better. But the issue at its core with this is that people equate time with better art. So it really is in opposition with how people view graphic design quickly and digital practice as a whole. So to me, yes, this is an issue. I have seen so much great art in the world, some that is painstakingly detailed and some that is not. And it is not just the detailed work that I appreciate. And that's not just me. The art world casts a huge umbrella over what can be considered art. Abstract or realist, painting or sculpture or performance, materials from trash to treasure. It's like the art world is somehow more flexible than its audience at times. And people who are new to art need to understand that there is room for everyone and a little bit of everything in art. Through learning more about art history, I think everyone can appreciate work that they are deeming less quality because of the length of process or the nature of its outcome. Another key difference with art and design is meaning behind it, and at least what people allow within this framing. As artists, we usually create from meaningful places, or at least we sometimes do. I'm gonna add that caveat. At least in art, we're allowed to create from meaning. But the beauty of art is that it sometimes is created from lack of meaning as well. And I'm not just talking Dadaism here. There is a lot of art that is conveying messaging or serving purpose in the same way that design is supposed to, right? So what makes art art and what makes art design? I want to look at some artists, and yes, they are considered artists, fine artists, who are celebrated, who also do work that is design adjacent. I mean, they're creating or created work that, as I see it, is graphic design. Before we get there though, let's talk about some design that I'm excited about lately. I'm working with Framer to tell you about a new launch that is really going to elevate your art and design websites. They've just released new shaders, which I'm really excited about because they just add a special unique touch, especially to your portfolios. I think Framer really gets it when it comes to the intersection of art and design because it allows you to feature your own design work or artwork in a really engaging way. Like, it's just the perfect platform to elevate your work. When the best way to showcase your physical work is on a digital website, I think Framer is such a good option. With shaders, you can add really cool movement onto your websites with features like liquid gradient and mesh. I also really love that you can add your own images to the Blockify option and fluted glass, which creates really cool, unique looks, especially to put your own image or your own artwork in the background of your site. That would be really cool to see. These are free to use on Framer now, which is so cool. I would love to see how you're using them on your site. So yeah, check out Framer now. The link is below in the description with my code. And yeah, thank you so much to Framer for sponsoring. Okay, so let's talk about some artists now who are celebrated as artists, and I want to celebrate as designers as well. And full disclosure, I did not script this part of the video because I just want to talk about the works in general in a more open, sense. Okay, so first I want to talk about Jenny Holzer. She's so incredible. I am not going to give full biographies on these artists. You can do a bit of research on them yourself, but I get a lot of my information from The Art Story. The Art Story is one of my favorite sites for art history research, specifically artists, because then it will show you notable works of theirs and kind of give you more context into some of these artists, and I just love it. Jenny Holzer's work exists under the umbrella of conceptual, contemporary, public, word, and light art categories. Word art specifically interests me because I feel that most of the artists I'm covering here, I'm covering just a few, but they all exist under this word art, which is typography art, and I love this. It's just, there's just so much to it that I love. It's funny that this word art category is still under fine art, but it is typography, it is design, and it's still existing in fine art, which I just think is fascinating. And Jenny Holzer's work with typography is specifically what is so powerful. So Jenny Holzer is known for these truisms, right? So truisms are sentences that she put together, she would collect, she pretty much made up, she wrote a lot as well, and she would put them out onto signs. So things like abuse of power comes as no surprise, that's one of her truisms. And a lot of her work is done in protest, and I think that definitely is the style of graphic design. That's where graphic design can really thrive, is in protest, signs, posters, billboards, things around a city. Like what you see in the world is typography, it's messaging. And when people do that within the context of fine art, I think it's great. It's just, let's call it what it is, right? It's design and typography. But her truisms, this was in the 70s is when it started. They were so powerful. I mean, they started as anonymous street posters. People would start crossing out what they thought, like their thoughts on the matters that she was addressing. And it was just really interesting and an interesting way to start engaging with an audience. And then it expanded, it kind of exploded globally. She did her work into LED. So a lot of her truisms have been in LED signs and on billboards over like Times Square, for example. And it's just really interesting that this is considered just conceptual art. I think it has so much more to give than just that. But yeah, I love her truisms. I've seen her work in person quite a few times, and I've studied her, and I just love her work so much. She also had really powerful inflammatory essays, which were her own writing. They were essays that on different topics, even if she didn't necessarily agree with them, she wrote them. And I think that's a really powerful way to use your art, especially through the means of typography. And then besides the LED signs, she dabbled in projection art, which is really interesting to me. And I think that these things all kind of correlate, right? Like messaging, art, protest. I think there has to be an intersection of design there, because design is not only just print or digital, it's also things like light and projection and different materials, printmaking. Like there's lots of materials you can use and still be utilizing graphic design. I always just want to remind people that graphic design is not just one thing. And like I said, I'm not interested in the definitions of these things. I'm interested in where we can take it and where we can push it. In Jenny Holzer's Truth Before Power 2004 light projections, I wrote this down, what was from Artsy. They said, Holzer projected texts including U.S. government documents, a poem by Henry Cole, and Holzer's own statements regarding architectural landmarks and landscape panoramas. The 4 images that comprise Truth Before Power are paradigms of both the artist aesthetic and her singular approach to public art. In this work, she combines her famous slogans, poetry, and redacted documents from the American government. The artist reminds the viewer how language can either expose or reinforce dominant power structures. This is why I love typography so much. It's so powerful because it is about language, and language as the conceptual experience itself. So this is why I love Jenny Holzer. Okay, so now there's Ed Ruscha, who is really highly associated with the pop art movement because he also did a lot of paintings. This is from the Art Story. It says, rather than simply painting a word, Ruscha considered the particular font that might add an elevated emotion to the meaning, much like the way a poet considers a phrase. By painting a word as a visual, he felt he was marking it as official, glorifying it as an object rather than a mere piece of text. I love, love, love his use of painting to create word art. And he didn't just use painting as paint, he used it as other materials as well, which to me felt even more diving into graphic design, like his maple syrup pour, because it's maple syrup pour of a typography look, right, of a logo as well. And it's not maple syrup, it's paint. So I even did a typography piece with maple syrup before, like actually physically doing it and then turning it digital. So I think there's a lot of layers to that, and I think it's interesting that he did it with paint, but he did also use different materials for some of his other works, like his work Dance from 1973 used coffee, egg white, mustard, and graphite on a canvas. So he did work with different materials as well, but I just love that there's kind of a sense of play from like being a traditional painter to bringing that into how can I make that look like other materials. I don't know, there's a lot of layers to that, which I think is interesting. I will link below, there's a couple interviews with him with the Tate Museum. There's some cool interviews with his work and kind of talking about how he sees the backgrounds as just backdrops for words and for what he wants to share. And I just think that's so interesting. He really speaks to me as a designer, I think, more than an artist. Okay, now Barbara Kruger. I talk about her so much on this channel, on my Instagram. Like, in general, I've just brought up Barbara Kruger any chance I could get. Her work, I think she's most known. I mean, she's an artist, but she's most known as a graphic artist, a graphic designer, because of the style of her work. It's done in black, white, and red. It's collage-y. It's words cut out of magazine vibe. It's very much graphic art. And I think the same thread that kind of pulls through at least feminist art, so including Jenny Holzer, is protest, and a lot of feminist protest. You can look at the Guerrilla Girls as well. They're an anonymous group of artists who are considered fine artists and in museums, and they talk about women in museums, but it's graphic work and it's typography work and posters, and I think that style is just so indicative of what we're doing in graphic design now, but I think it still exists as an art piece because you can have any intention behind it. You can have these meanings behind it, and I just think that's so interesting. You take me off script and I'm just like getting passionate. But yeah, with Barbara Kruger, there's a lot of cool protest work, cool collage work, and I've talked about her in general on my Instagram. Like, this is one of my posts about her with a little more information. Just a great artist. Okay, so now let's talk about Mel Bachner. So Mel Bachner actually did just pass away just last year, which is pretty unfortunate, because he's one of the founders of conceptual art, like literally conceptual art. You think Mel Bachner, and he's just incredible. It's interesting, his work started so long ago that there's, exhibitions he did in the 60s, moving into the 70s, but then more of his later work is really what's popular, and then also what I'm kind of interested in as well. I mean, he's been doing text work since the 70s, but I just really find his style very intriguing, especially in his later years. The painting, again, we're just painting words, like painting typography, using a very fine art medium to kind of evoke a design concept or a protest or a meaningless artwork, right? So we're kind of pushing into the realm of design of, is it just serving a purpose? Is it super meaningful and artistic? Like, we're always asking these questions when we're looking at these works, and sometimes it's like, does it mean anything, right? Like, he has paintings that's called blah blah blah. Like, what does that really mean? And is it randomized? And why is it randomized? And in some ways, does that make it even more interesting that he chose to be random instead of calculated? But I think it's really interesting, like, he does these things that are called thesaurus paintings. Almost can't pronounce that every time I want to say it, but yeah, just kind of using random words in graphic arrangements. And I think that is powerful in the world of design, and bringing that into the fine art space, like painting it. And what does it mean when it's painted? Does it mean anything? Like word art and public art, and I don't know, it's just, I'm fascinated. I'm like figuring it out as we're talking about it. And that's why I kind of want to hear your thoughts too. I want to hear your comments. And then of course there's the materials. There's like silk screening, printmaking, like traditional printmaking with ink. There's lithographs. There's just traditional print. There's all the materials that these artists were using, which I think all of them have used like pretty much all of that. And then on top of that, like the LED, the digital signs, I think that's so interesting too. I think it really helps me feel like I can approach my design work in a more fine art way. Like if I want to work in typography, I want to make lettering, I want to make letters. why not even approach that with painting? That makes it feel more approachable to me because painting for me freaks me out. Like, I don't paint. And it's just funny. Like, it makes me think, wow, I could maybe approach painting and do it from the lens of typography, do it through the lens of language. What message do I want to convey? Lettering gets a little bit crazy. Like, if I want to do it with paint, why not? If I want to do it with sculpture, why not? It's just interesting to start thinking about, and that's why I'm just so inspired by these artists, and I wanted to talk about them. Maybe it was a little bit rambly, but I would love to hear your thoughts on the art and the history of it all, because I feel like it kind of brings us together on our topic here. Can art be design? Can design be art? Where does it intersect? And I think these artists really represent where it can intersect in a beautiful way, and maybe show some people who think design is only one thing that it can be more. And what can I do to push my limits with my design work into art, right? It's very interesting to me. I hope you find it interesting too. If you did, please give this video a like. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was a very interesting conversation, and I hope that you guys have some thoughts too, and let me know what other thoughts you want to have, and I can make a video out of it. Yeah, I think that's everything I wanted to say. I'll see you in my next video. Bye. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye.